It's time for Tycoons of Small Biz, spotlighting the true backbone of the American economy, the true tycoons of business in America, the owners, founders, and CEOs of small businesses. The show's hosts, Austin Peterson and Landon Mance, are registered representatives of Lincoln Financial Advisors Corporation, a broker-dealer member SIPC, and registered investment advisor. The views expressed by your hosts, Austin and Landon, are not necessarily the views of Lincoln Financial Advisors. Let's lean in as Austin and Landon connect with this week's Tycoons.
Good afternoon, Tycoons, and welcome to today's episode of Tycoons of Small Biz. I'm your host, Austin Peterson, joined as always by my co-host, Landon Mance. And if today is the first time that you're listening to Tycoons of Small Biz, let me just explain real quick what we do and why we do it. Tycoons of Small Biz is a radio show and podcast that's put together for small business owners, privately held business owners throughout the country, as well as nonprofit organizations. The show is here to prop those organizations up, get the word out about them, and make sure that we as Americans support them because they truly are the backbone of the American economy. With that said, today our guest is Anthony Doc Ameen. Anthony, he goes by Doc, so we're going to call him Doc. He's the founder and CEO of Wings for Warriors Foundation and co-founder and CEO of Taylor & Lawrence. Doc, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks guys for having me so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you in here. And, Landon and I, neither of us have been in the military, but we have ties to the military. So we have great respect for veterans, and we're excited to talk to you a little bit about that. But before we jump into, what it is that you do professionally in the different organizations, we'd like to have you step back and tell us a little bit about you personally. Tell us your story. Tell us where you grew up. Tell us, a little bit about your family. What matters most to you?
Absolutely. Again, thanks for having me. So I grew up here in Phoenix. My family moved from San Antonio in 1991. My wife's family moved from Seattle, Washington in 91. So I've known her a long time. I haven't been with her that long. We were raised in Ahwatukee here in Phoenix, a little suburb community, and a lot of cookie cutter homes and just very family oriented. And when my wife and I connected years later and started dating and having a family of our own, we wanted to be in Ahwatukee. And so I was a wild card in high school, definitely the class clown. And I want to say I was the ladies' man. We can ask my wife later. But yeah, it was just kind of, I was the wild card and didn't really know where I was going to go. I don't think my teachers or friends or other students, in school knew where I was going to go. But here I am, and I'm here to tell my story. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I definitely connect with the class clown portion of things. So I was a decent student, but I enjoy having fun, and I'm sure you'll see some of that come out here in the next little bit throughout this interview. But so I mentioned the military background, and we know that you're a veteran, and the name Doc or the nickname Doc comes from you being a medic in the Navy. So tell us, what prompted you to join the Navy?
Great question. So I think we all know where we were the morning of September 11th, 2001. I was actually in between jobs, and community college wasn't going well for me. I was back at home living with mom and dad, and my mom woke me up just before the second plane hit that second tower. It was later that evening, connecting with friends over the phone and just kind of checking on some of my friends and relatives as well as that lived in New York City. And something inside of me I felt compelled to join the service. And it was actually 1 year later that I was a part of a delayed entry program with the United States Navy after I met at a recruiting office. And 1 year to the date later, I swore into oath September 11th, 2002. From then on, Doc was born.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, especially the fact that you were sworn in 1 year later on September 11th. I think if we went back and looked at the statistics, it wouldn't surprise any of us to see that there was probably an increase in, signing up to be in the military. What's the word I'm looking for? Enlisting.
Enrollment.
Yeah, enlisting in 2001 after September 11th. And, it's one of those moments for all of us, right? So I wasn't in a place to enlist at that time, but it's one of those moments because I was married and had a kid at that point. But it's one of those moments that in life where you just remember exactly where you were when you first heard about it, right? And I was driving to work at the time, listening to just a morning show, and they started reporting about it and kind of talking about it. It's one of these, comedy, have fun morning shows that's trying to wake me up. We lived in Southern California at the time, and it was, 6 a.m. and they were trying to reconcile what had gone on and trying to figure it out. And then the whole rest of the day, I called my wife, woke her up. Our son was 18 months old at the time, and just the rest of the day, I have very vivid memories of watching the coverage and just, understanding what was going on. And the first time in my lifetime where I've been alive, where we've been attacked on our soil. And it's one of those things that it means so much to every American. And the fact that you enlisted and got involved, your own way at that point, hats off to you.
Well, thank you. And I just remember how eerily quiet the nation was on or around that time. It's just so quiet. And an observation I think that all of us made too was that we really came together as a country. I mean, it stinks or sucks, whatever I can say. I said
this is both. Internet radio. You can say whatever you want.
I said them both, but it stinks and sucks combined that it took something like that to get our country together. But it was really just an interesting time to be an American. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And not to get political in any way, but I think 20 years later now, to kind of look back and think, gosh, we came together so closely then, and kind of where the country is today, where there's so much divisiveness and, everybody's on one side or the other. There is kind of almost no middle now, I think is difficult, especially for somebody who went out and served this country after we were attacked that way.
I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of the veteran community, quietly, because you don't want to make anyone upset anymore, right? You have to be politically correct. But I think a lot of veterans are biting their tongue and unfortunately being silent about the way they actually feel. But there are some solid veteran connections that I've made over the years, and just close friends, contacts that I've kept over the years. And we're brokenhearted about it, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably difficult to. I know it's difficult to watch for me, and I'm sure it's more difficult to watch for somebody who's served. And I have a brother that's a year younger than me. Literally, he's 12 months and 12 days younger than me. And he was a Marine, and he had a medical discharge, and so he was never deployed, never served overseas. But his license plate says E1 forever, right? Because that was his whatever it's called,
his rank?
Yeah, his rank, or I feel like there's like a level of pay or whatever that's tied to that E1 or whatever. But yeah, the license plate on his truck says E1 forever. And once a Marine, always a Marine. He's definitely that for life, even though he unfortunately had to be medically discharged. Well, Landon, let's talk to him a little bit about why he chose to be a medic. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, Doc, I wanted just to kind of, this can be a rhetorical question, but I just was thinking about it as you were sharing with us what motivated you to join. And I just am curious what your thoughts are. I think during that time, there was a lot of young men and women, around that age that you might consider, enlisting in the armed services that had similar thoughts to you, right? Because we were mad, we were angry, we were scared, we were whatever we were experiencing. But what do you think the difference is between people like me and Austin, maybe that felt that, and people like you that felt that and actually, took action and joined and committed to doing that? I mean, what do you think the difference is with people like us?
That's a great question. What came to mind when you were asking the question, I kind of saw it unraveling slowly. And the light bulb in my head went off was I needed direction in my life. I needed guidance, discipline, direction. I needed my head on a swivel. And I wasn't. I didn't have any of that. I was all over the place. And I think because I was the wild card, kind of just, how do I explain this? I was going every which way because I didn't know which way to go. And I think that I was hanging with a crowd that was fun to be around, right? But fun doesn't pay the bills. I was partying. I was dabbling in drugs and alcohol at an early age, misdemeanors, and that's just my story, and I own it. And in order to grow as a young man into a man, I had to make a decision for myself. And I think what helped prompt that was the attacks on our American soil. I was raised by an amazing my parents are both amazing. They're from Texas. They're conservatives, and that's how I was raised. And there's a song that comes to mind. It was talking about a Bible and a belt, and the Bible obviously was King James, and the belt had the name of his daddy on it. But that just reminds me of how I was raised, right? And then when we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, the wild card that I was, I wasn't going the right way. And I think that what helped prompt me that in the right direction was joining the armed services.
Yeah, very cool. Well, whatever the case may be, we thank you for your service. And my wife and I've got 1-year-old twins. They just turned 1. And a stepson who's 18 as well. He's living with his dad currently. But we pray for you guys every single night, and just thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you. And congratulations.
So tell us, Doc. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just say congratulations on the little ones.
Oh yeah, thanks. Hey, Doc, so you were a medic, right, in the Navy. Can you talk to us just a little bit about how that came about and kind of what your experience was, during your time when you were enlisted?
Sure. And another light bulb that went off as your previous question was kind of unraveling was that what sparked me to become a medic or a hospital corpsman. I wasn't actually fighting for my country the way you kind of put it. And for the first 2 years, I was actually a deck seaman. So I was on the boat, fixing the boat. When you go into port, you throw the ropes over to the side, and you tie the hull of the ship to the side of the port. And when they say haze gray underway, haze gray is the color of the paint that they paint the hull of the ship. And so when we're let's say harbored, and we needed to do some repairs on the ship, I was the guy in the little boat painting the ship. And I was also blessed to say that when I was a deck seaman, one of the cooler parts of the story actually was when I was on the USS Dubuque LPD-8 in San Diego, when we took a group of Marines from Camp Pendleton over to Iraq for them to do their thing as an artillery Marine unit on Iraqi soil. We were doing figure eights in the North Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf. And if you guys remember Private Jessica Lynch, we were actually the helipad, so to speak, for the decoy helicopter in that mission. So it's pretty cool to say that my ship allowed the saving and the rescuing of Private Jessica Lynch. And we also had a couple hundred prisoners of war, and that were on our well deck. And I was standing watch over those guys and steered the ship in wartime, which is pretty cool, at night. But again, I wasn't fighting for my country. And the reason why I joined because of September 11th was to fight for my country. And so there was an opportunity to retake your ASVAB placement test, and I did that. I scored so well so that they wanted to offer me either military policeman or hospital corpsman. Initially, I thought, I want to be an MP. I think that just sounded cool. They did a background check. Nope, sorry, dude, you're going to be a hospital corpsman. And that's honest to God, the story right there.
That's hilarious. Well, I mean, I mentioned, the fact that I had an 18-month-old son, which is why I think at that point I wouldn't have considered enlisting. All we have to do is look at Landon to know that his face is why he wouldn't consider enlisting. Like, he doesn't want to put that face through anything that puts it, at risk. So we know the answer for Landon.
Oh man, number one received.
You knew it was coming.
I did, yeah. So, Doc, I'm curious. I mean, I think it'd be cool for you to just kind of tell us a little bit more about the role that you kind of moved into, and maybe just some quick experiences, and then we'll kind of we'll talk to you a little bit about what that led to, kind of as far as your achievements in your time in the Navy.
Sure. So when I became a corpsman, it was an amazing opportunity. I got to work out of hospitals, clinics, predominantly the emergency room in Navy Medical Center, Portsmouth, Virginia. I learned from some of the Navy's finest Navy medicine physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, and LPNs and corpsmen. And I love that job. I was working the graveyards for about 2.5 years out of the emergency room. So I was working the night shift, and you never knew what you were going to get. My very first patient was a seeking patient. So seeking meaning she had some opioid addictions. And so she would go and say she wasn't feeling good so she can get the pain meds that she was seeking, right? And that's why they call them seekers. And so my very first patient was in room 1. I'll never forget it. And she had HIV. She had AIDS or HIV, and I had to draw blood work on her. Now, as a corpsman, I'm a professional. I'm going to wear gloves, no worries. But those thoughts still go through your head. My very first patient outside of training that I drew blood from was a patient that had HIV and AIDS. And so that was a wake-up call, no doubt. And but just all the experiences in the emergency room. I mean, unfortunately, there was babies that passed away, grown men crying because of their abdominal pain from an appendix rupture. I mean, just name something. There was gunshot wounds. There was stab wounds. There was people that had really bad pneumonia. In fact, well, I can't say the patients because it's breaking the patient privacy stuff. But one of there's a Navy diver, without saying his name, there's a Navy diver that's very famous. And he was my patient several times in the ER. And he remembered us all by name. And it was just an amazing experience. And the love that was felt through not only the physicians, down to the nurses, down to the corpsmen, we just experienced just gratitude for one another. And it was all about teamwork. So that was some of that. And just the training thereafter. I remember I did a year in women's health. So that was actually kind of interesting because fast forward, I hated it then, but fast forwarding into fatherhood, it allowed me to appreciate babies. And it allowed me to hold a baby in a way that I probably wouldn't have been able to if it wasn't for the training received. So,
right. So, Doc, you've got a very unique perspective when it comes to healthcare and being, in the Navy, because obviously you just shared with us one side of that perspective, but you have a perspective as a patient, right, as well as a wounded combat, medic. So, talk to us a little bit about that, would you?
Absolutely. So, fast forwarding through a lot of training, a lot of, patient provider visits as a corpsman. Back in that 1-year rotation in women's health, they actually were looking for Navy corpsmen between the ages of 25 and 35 that wanted to volunteer and go to Iraq or Afghanistan. And I was quick to volunteer and be on that list because, let's backpedal a bit, I wanted to fight for my country. And so this was giving me the opportunity to be a corpsman for a Marine unit on the battlefield and actually fight for my country. And so I signed up, and that's what I ended up becoming, was a Fleet Marine Force, FMF, Navy corpsman, and ended up deploying with 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division. They were deploying out to Afghanistan to fight the Taliban back in 2008. So April of 2008, we pushed out to Kandahar. We spent a good month reading the Bible, cleaning our guns, and preparing for the attacks that were going to be literally within the next couple of weeks. We pushed out to Nowzad, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Now, if you remember back in like 2008, 2009, Helmand Province was definitely being reinforced by the Taliban insurgents at that time. And so it was all over CNN, all over Fox News. And that's where I was being deployed. Now, what's interesting is July 21st, 2008, just to get back to your point, was my job was to just patch guys up. My job, sure, I had a rifle, a machine gun. Sure, I had a knife, a bayonet if I needed to fix it. But my job was solely to render medical attention to wounded Marines, sailors. If they got shot, shrapnel, blown up, I was their doc. My job was to run across the battlefield and give them the medical treatment that they deserved and required. And so July 21st, 2008, this is my story. I own it. We were going against the Taliban, and there was stuff happening all around us that morning. The Air Force or Marines, they were going to be dropping a 500-pound bomb. And when they did on the insurgents, that ripple effect, that shockwave went right past us. Edwin Daniel he was another hospital corpsman that went through a lot of training with me. He was across the battlefield, and he needed a Polis litter. One of our Marines sat on an IED, wasn't doing well, wasn't expected to live. But our job was to keep him alive long enough for the Casevac to pick him up so that they can medically treat him the way that they could off of the battlefield, because they have the resources that we didn't, because you're very limited on the battlefield with resources. With that being said, I was one out of like 100 guys that had a Polis litter in my medical bag. And so they called me over the radio. We took a few guys with us, including a minesweeper in front of me, and we just started booking it. After that shockwave cleared, we were told to go, go, go. We started running across the battlefield. For me, medically speaking, we weren't going fast enough, so I ended up going around the minesweeper, started booking it, and boom. I stepped on an IED with my left foot. The blast went kind of up and to the right, nearly took my right leg. My right leg was a wet noodle between the ankle and the kneecap. My left foot was mangled. The boot was hanging a little bit crooked and further than it needed to, so I knew I lost my left foot. And I just remembered the minesweeper was a combat Marine Corps engineer, and he was dragging me by my flak jacket behind, where the crater was just created by the bomb. And in that very moment, I thought, he's going to drag me over another bomb. Cannot describe what that feels like. And I tell people too, I was closer to God on the battlefield than I've probably ever been in my entire life, because you have to be. I don't know where to go from there. I can keep going. I'm sorry. I kind of get caught up in it. So if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer. But yeah, to fast forward through the combat craziness and the chaos, I ended up waking up in Bastion Air Station, finding out that, waking up and seeing my leg, my stump wrapped in gauze, my right leg's hanging on chains, and they're trying to give me, get my pain under control with pain medication and whatnot. And I remember one of our battalion commanders came up and with tears in his eyes telling me that Ivan Wilson passed away next to me on the Casevac. Because the first thing I asked when I woke up wasn't, hey, what happened to my leg? Or, hey, where am I? The first thing on my mind was the Marine I was running to save. And I said, hey, how's Ivan doing? And they said he didn't make it. So when I came home, it took about a week in Germany, and then they flew me stateside. The week in Germany was to mainly get my pain under control. After that, I had about 34 surgeries, the majority of which, I think 20 plus on my right leg to save it from amputation. And my left stump had a lot of revisions. And I had just so many infections over the years that I ended up having surgery fatigue from having so many surgeries. But when all that was done, the federal government denied me my federal health care and financial benefits. And so, as you can imagine, being the hothead with PTSD, survivor's guilt, my guys are still out there getting shot at, mortared, and attacked every day by the Taliban. Here I am, stateside, air-conditioned, even though, sure, I have my new battles ahead of me. But I was wrongfully denied my benefits from the federal government that I just lost a limb for. That deployment, we lost 19 Marines, 1 sailor, and 1 interpreter. And then years later, we lost an additional 30 men, mainly Marines, to PTSD-related suicide. So I was pretty pissed off and hot-headed about not being given what I was fighting for the whole time.
Yeah, and I think rightfully so. That's a tough pill to swallow for sure. And what you went through is something that I can only imagine, right? I mean, I've never been on a battlefield. The closest that I can even come is seeing movies like Saving Private Ryan and different things like that kind of help you feel it a little bit or try to experience it. But I know it's nothing like what you actually went through. But I think what we did just fine, though, is what led you to where you are today, right? I mean, I think that you've just kind of alluded to where Wings for Warriors came from, now Wings for Warriors Foundation, and probably why you have Taylor and Lawrence as well. So let's talk about both of those. Start with Wings for Warriors Foundation, how you got your start and where you are today, and then we'll jump over to Taylor and Lawrence as well.
I appreciate that. So seeing healthcare on both sides of the spectrum, like he said, so 34 surgeries, being wrongfully denied. And then once I was given the benefits, getting that back pay from the federal government that I was wrongfully denied from, I thought, wow, I can help other guys secure their benefits. And so in physical therapy, I'm doing like the arm bike or getting stretched by a physical therapist. And the guy to my left or the gal to my right would say, hey, that's the benefits guy. At that point, when you're being labeled a nickname like the benefits guy from other wounded warriors, other disabled veterans from combat, that there was something there, and it kind of sparked a fire within. So I ended up founding Wings for Warriors, a nonprofit organization that was serving the wounded and disabled community for 8 years strong, basically providing benefits counseling and resources so that they don't get wrongfully denied themselves. And so to date, Wings for Warriors helped a little over 5,000 veterans across the country, along with their caregivers and military families, with travel assistance as well. My mom and dad had to fly and be by my bedside for all those surgeries, and they had to pay out of their own pocket for those flights. And so Wings for Warriors help fund travel for family members to visit their healing heroes and helping those healing heroes receive their benefits. Should I go into Taylor and Lawrence?
Sure. Yeah.
So Edwin Daniel, Doc Daniel, that corpsman that was across the battlefield on July 21st, 2008, that was working on Ivan Wilson, the Marine that didn't make it home alive. He ended up serving on the board of directors with Wings for Warriors about halfway into that 8-year mark. And he and I helped receive we ended up receiving a couple of sponsors. And those sponsors were actually government contractors, subcontractors for the U.S. government. And Edwin's a really smart guy. And he's like, hey, we could probably do this on our own. And so Edwin and I co-founded Taylor & Lawrence, which is a healthcare executive consulting business where it's really just Edwin, myself, and a handful of interns right now. And it's a healthcare startup. It's a lot of fun. And we're basically finding the nooks and crannies within the healthcare systems, mainly that of the VA and military healthcare side of the house, and finding out how we can increase their quality by saving costs and finding contracts that allow that to happen. It's been an amazing ride. And on or around the 8-year itch with Wings for Warriors, I wanted to do something more and bigger than just benefits and travel. And so I ended up taking a break for about a year, got my degree in healthcare management, started growing Taylor & Lawrence. And it was on or around that time I decided to turn Wings for Warriors into an actual foundation where we're no longer offering direct services, but we're going to help other organizations that do have kick butt programs and services. And so that's what we're doing right now. And it's awesome.
Awesome. So the main focus now is fundraising for these other organizations and probably connecting people with the right organization to get done what they need done?
Absolutely. So we're finding, funding, and fueling 4 organizations within a 2-year period. So right now we've got Reboot Recovery, America's Mighty Warriors, Heroes and Horses, and we've also got Waypoint Vets. And each of these 4 organizations have different types of services and programs. Faith-based trauma, equine therapy, groundwork therapy. We've got, there's a lot of spiritual aspects and components to what we're doing. Hyperbaric oxygen treatment for PTSD, mental health. And they're not just helping veterans, but first responders as well. And that was something during the break, I realized that these first responders are wearing uniforms as well. They're serving and sacrificing just as much as we are, if not sometimes more. And they're here keeping our family safe at home while we're overseas doing what we need to do to keep all of you guys safe, right? So I just thought, you know what? I'm a patriot. People wearing uniforms are patriots. And we at Wings for Warriors want to help all uniform patriots now. And so in our 10th year, we just want to help as many people as we can. And then 2 years from now, we'll pick a whole nother gamut of organizations and services, and we're just going to keep it going.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think this is an opportunity for us to kind of reach out to our audience and let them know that we want to try to help in any way that we can. After the show, we'll put some social media posts out and we send out a newsletter and do different things. But this is our plea to the listeners. What we would like to do is get 100 people to donate $100 to the organization, which gets us to a $10,000 gift or a donation to Wings for Warriors Foundation. So after the show, watch for social media posts. We'll get some word out there, and we'll count on you to give us a link and so forth on where they should be going to make those donations possible. But I think it's the least that any of us can do to get the word out and to raise some money for such a great organization.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everybody.
And Landon's good for 26 cents, probably at least.
I will pledge a minimum of $100. I'll tell you that right now, but I think I can. There's some wiggle room there, so we'll try to up that as much as we can. But I will commit to $100.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. Landon and I have already talked about it ahead of time, and we've talked about, the love that we have for veterans, and we try to serve nonprofits any way that we can with our show and highlight them as well and raise money for them. But this is our first go at really putting everything together and saying, let's get our audience together, our past guests, anybody that we know from our client base and so forth, to just get some money into an organization that's important like this.
Thank you, everybody. I mean, this is how organizations like Wings for Warriors Foundations grow and sustain and help people. A lot of people ask, how can we help? Sure, financial contributions, right? But there's people that have skill sets that I don't, that our board of directors don't, that our volunteers don't. There's people out there that have, maybe they're retired and they have time to donate. Maybe they have a skill set that they can donate. Or maybe they just are super duper connected and they want to just get some of their contacts to come and pour into the organization. So again, thank you so much for having me and for kind of plugging what we do. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and you and I should connect offline as well with and when you said time to donate, my wife and I work with an organization called Just Serve, where we connect nonprofit organizations that need things done or items donated with the community and others that can come and actually fulfill those. So there may be some opportunities to list some things on Just Serve, and people can donate and volunteer there as well. So
yeah, I want to mention something, Doc. So just as a lead up to our conversation today, I went on to the website and I got to the landing page. By the way, very nice website. I love it. Very well put together, easy to navigate. Just, yeah, great website. But I landed at the video. I think you guys called it the PSA or something, video. And I clicked on it. And, in our day and age, I'll speak for myself, but one of the first things I do is I look at the length of the video, right? To kind of just get a feel for how long, I'm going to listen or something. So I pull up the video, look at the length of it. I think it was 16 minutes, and said, oh, well, I'll just, let me just watch it for a minute or two. And at least I can share with Doc that I watched the video and get a flavor for what you guys are all about. I think I watched it for probably 14 or 15 minutes. I got through all four of the foundation members or the groups that you guys are supporting. And I would just encourage anybody that is listening, go on to their website, find that video. It's 15 or 16 minutes long, and it'll give you the motivation that you need to know that you are supporting a really phenomenal organization. So I just wanted to throw that plug out for you, because that was a very, very well done video. It really just encapsulates you and your story and your mission and the work that the foundation is doing. So hopefully everyone can go check out that video. I promise it's well worth your time.
I could not have asked for a better compliment. That is honestly an internal, was it too long? Was it too long? Is it good enough? Like, we knew it was great, right? We wanted to push it out. We thought it was too long, but everyone had so much to share. And this is all so new and so impactful. Thank you for that. That was awesome. You answered a lot of internal questions. So that was awesome.
Yeah, cool. Very cool, man. Yeah, it's great video. And I love how you guys described in that video the pivot that you made, right? From, you were wearing 20 different hats and doing all this stuff and trying to coordinate care with all your, wounded, men and women. And then you just came to a turning point where you just had, you envisioned doing something greater. And it sounds like that's when you pivoted to, turning it into a foundation, selecting the 4 recipients of the foundation and then moving into this new model that you guys have adapted. Is that kind of a fair statement?
That's extremely fair. Yes, that's exactly spot on.
Cool. Very cool. Well, Doc, we've got a little bit of time left here. Let's spend a couple minutes and just kind of tell us about what's on the horizon for Doc and your family, what's on the horizon for your foundation, and what's on the horizon for your consulting company.
Again, thanks, guys. This is fun. I get to flex my muscles and kind of, share stuff. I would say let's start with family. So I get to brag about my family this year. I have so Madeline's our 14-year-old. She's high school. Lacey is, she's an amazing competitive dancer. Lacey's 13. She's in middle school. Our 7-year-old Vivian, she's a dancer as well, competitive dancer. She's in elementary school, and our son Vance is 4, almost 5, and he's about to start kindergarten. So it's just amazing, My wife is beautiful, gorgeous, and we're better now than we've ever been before. And God has just blessed us immeasurably. It's hard as a family. It's just great. We attend Mountain Park Church in Ahwatukee. It's our home church. We love it's a very community-based church. It's small, but it's not too big. It's just right. And they have amazing programs. I've been a part of men's ministry there for about 6 or 7 years, and just some of the relationships with some of the other guys in the community that want to work on themselves, grow, and be better husbands, fathers, and community members. So big part, the church is a big part of our life. Me personally, I've got a book coming out called Nonprofits Suck. Now, after that amazing plug that you just gave, I hope you guys understand SUCK is an acronym. There's 3 S's, 3 U's, 3 C's, and 3 K's. So Nonprofits Suck, a love letter to future founders. I want the future founders of the nonprofits of the world serving communities later in life that haven't been born yet or birthed yet, for those founders to read this book and realize what they can do right and what they can do wrong, learning from my mistakes and my successors, right? So it's really just a love letter to future founders, or really any nonprofit executives out there that are trying to grow their nonprofit, or they want to do something a certain way. There's really no right way or no wrong way, but there are mistakes that they can make, and I want them to learn from my mistakes. Not to say I made a whole bunch of them to make a book. There's a lot of amazing success as well, and so I want to give those little nuggets of wisdom to the future founders of the world through this book. I don't have the exact date yet, but it should be out this summer, and I'm super pumped for it. Consulting. So let's get back to Taylor and Lawrence. It's so new and it's such a startup that I don't know what direction it's going, but I can say that it's going up right now because the team is building. We're getting, the phones are ringing. A lot of people are finding us through, like, LinkedIn is a really great way for people to find us and network. I think that our team of interns right now are really going to pave the way forward for the part-timers and the full-timers that are shortly to follow. So really excited about Taylor and Lawrence, the growth that's currently taken place. And I have nothing but love and gratitude for the current team of college interns. And these interns aren't just interns. They're not just students. They're on the dean's list, 4.0 grad students. These are awesome, amazing human beings, and they're taking Taylor and Lawrence to the next level. And then back to Wings for Warriors Foundation. Again, it's kind of new and fun as well. And with people like yourself, shows like this, and getting a lot of community love and support, we're just going to keep crushing away and helping the veterans and first responders that we aim to serve.
Sounds like you got a lot going on, and you got double the amount of kids that I have. So I know you're busier than I am, probably.
Keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah, no, I tell you, you talk about, you started talking about your kids, and, you start giving the names and the ages, and I'm thinking, girl, and you did finally throw the boy in at the end, which, it's not about boys or girls. It's just that I'm in the middle of a 17-year-old girl finishing her senior year of high school and getting ready for college, and all of the stress that comes with that. And I think it was so easy with my son, who's a sophomore, finishing his sophomore year at Arizona State. It was just so much easier with him for me, right? It might have been more difficult for my wife, but it was easier for me. And just, 3 girls in a row, I think you got your work cut out for you. Not to scare you off, but it gets harder before it gets easier. Now he's sweating. Look at this guy. He's sweating. He's worried about things. He came in here all happy-go-lucky, and now he's walking out the door sweating.
Well, it sounds like he said 17. So I've got Maddie's 14. So we've got 3 more years with her, 4 years with Lacey, and then an additional 7 with Vivian. So some of these great, not all of these hairs are gray, but is that where they come from?
Oh, yeah.
The girls?
Yeah. I'm just glad to have somebody else on the show that doesn't have a full head of hair.
I am outnumbered today, but it's all good.
Well, Doc, we really appreciate the conversation. I think that we've covered some really important things. We know for sure that you've got a great foundation that our listeners should be supporting, that we want to support. We want to stay in touch with you as you continue to grow Taylor and Lawrence, and obviously be involved with Wings for Warriors as well. Is there anything else besides, and we want you to go, website, all those sorts of things, but anything besides the web address and how to get a hold of you that our audience you think should know?
I'm on social media just like all of you, and I'm a human being just like all of you. So feel free to connect. I mean, that's what it's for. And there's, like LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm almost maxed out, but you can still follow me if you'd like to be a part of my little world. And I'm pretty active on Twitter as well. So yeah, I mean, just however the listeners want to connect with me, they're more than welcome to do so.
Great. Yeah. So give us the website for Wings for Warriors and Taylor and Lawrence.
So Wings for Warriors is wingsforwarriors.org. Taylor and Lawrence is taylorandlawrence.com. And if you want to learn a little bit more about me and the keynote speaking that I do on the side, it's anthonydocameen.com.
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the conversation. Look forward to watching your organizations flourish over the years to come.
God bless all of you guys. Really appreciate today.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot, Doc.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Tycoons of Small Biz, proudly hosted by Austin Peterson and Landon Mance. Austin and Landon are comprehensive financial planning professionals specializing in financial, estate, and succession planning for small business owners. Austin and Landon have offices in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Las Vegas, Nevada, and represent clients in 14 states throughout the country. Join Austin, Landon, and the featured tycoons live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. right here on Business RadioX and your favorite podcast platform.